Meeting's yours, Adam.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Northampton Township Board of Supervisors meeting for Wednesday, December 16th, 2020 to order. We'll start out with a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence. The flags are behind me. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag
to
of
the
the
flag
United States
of the States of America, and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Before we get started with the rest of the agenda, apparently I went on to mute. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Before we get started with the agenda, I just want to remind everyone how we're going to handle public comments tonight. We have a couple opportunities for public comment. The first opportunity is public comment limited to the agenda. If you'd like to make a public comment, please email to publiccomment@nhtwp.org. Put in the subject line the item you would like to speak about and your name and address for the record in the body of the email, and we'll recognize you at the time. The same would be true for public comment at the end of the meeting, although you don't have to put the subject in the agenda or the subject in the subject line. You could just put your name and address for the record. If you prefer not to be recognized and speak, but you would like us to read your comments, please limit it to about 300 words, and I will read your comment on the particular item that you want to be heard into the record. I'll try to remind everybody a couple of times during the way about making public comment, but I suggest you do that sooner rather than later if you'd like to. Next, I'd like to just remind everybody that obviously we're in a snow emergency, and the township did do a formal declaration of emergency at 1 p.m. today. The thing to remember with that is please make sure that your streets are going to get plowed, and please make sure your vehicles are off the streets. It's just really difficult for them to plow around the cars, and that's an opportunity for your car to get plowed in. Also, just for the public's information, Public Works, which is our road crew, our fire, police, and EMS, all have extra crews in for at least the next 24 hours, maybe longer, to ensure that service is not compromised in any way. It's very difficult to tell what this storm is actually going to bring. There's a lot of different forecasts, so we are prepared for whatever comes our way. Second, I'd just like to let everyone know that trash collection this week will be postponed by 1 day, and that's for the remainder of the week. So if your normal day is 1 day, it will be the following day, and that goes all the way through Saturday this week. In addition to that, just a couple other things that are happening that are worth noting. The library, due to some of the recent restrictions around COVID, has been moved to curbside service only. So if you recall, they used to do that a while back where you would get there, call in, and they'll bring your books to you. It's a great service. They do a great job, but they really have it down well. So I suggest you continue to do that. And Park and Rec moved to online only at this time until the restrictions are lifted, with the exception of the nursery school. The nursery school still is in person. So if you have any questions about that, contact the township, and they can give you further direction on that. We don't have any flag presentations tonight, but we do have one special presentation, and it's my honor to introduce to the township Dr. Ken Lavelle. Now, you've been hearing me talk about Dr. Lavelle for most of the year. Dr. Lavelle is our township medical director. He came on board with us sometime end of March, beginning of April with the COVID emergency. And wow, did we just realize how great it is to have a medical director on our staff. Yes. I mean, in addition to COVID, Dr. Lavelle provides just a lot of other medical services and advice for us and helping us in our decision process. And he's going to talk a little bit about that today. He's going to give us a little bit of a COVID update, maybe a regional one, more around the township, and then describe some of the other things that he does for us in the township. So Dr. Lavelle, the floor is yours.
Great, thanks, Adam. Just for the public members, to introduce myself,
I'm an emergency medicine physician that trained at Jefferson down in Philadelphia, still affiliated with them. Before that, for 10 years, I was a firefighter and EMT and paramedic over in New Jersey. We came here for our wonderful school districts that we have here as my kids, and now we're empty nesters. So, it's proud to be back on board. I serve as a medical director for the fire department for Trihampton. And like Adam said, been assisting with a lot of the different COVID issues that have been going on. As we know, the vaccine is rolling out. I'm looking down at my notes here. It's rolling out to healthcare workers and hospitals right now. It's only approved for over 16, not kids yet, although they are very low risk for getting sick from this. This vaccine was made very quickly, but that doesn't mean I don't trust it. The last major vaccines we made were back about 50 to 70 years ago. And this one was made by multiple companies that we're sharing some information, and certainly our technology has improved in that time. The decision whether to take the vaccine is yours, unless your employer for some reason requires a mandatory vaccine. For example, in the hospital, I have to always get a flu shot every year, whether I like it or not. So there is some background for that. It's probably not going to roll out to the general public until spring or even summertime. What that means for all of our closures and restrictions, I can't say. That's not certainly be made at a much higher level than me. As far as our numbers here in Pennsylvania, we have had a surge. I want to give you an update. I've been tracking daily numbers for about 2 months now. So for example, on October 19th, we had 870 people hospitalized statewide and 89 people on ventilators. We use those hospitalizations and ventilators as a little bit better indication of how bad this is rather than simply cases, because we are finding a lot of people are asymptomatic. And since testing has become more available, then our cases have been very high. So that's 870 hospitalized in October 19th. As of today, 6,346 are hospitalized. Number of people on a ventilator has gone from 89 up to 740. So that is surging a bit, and we're quite concerned. Even more concerning, I can report today that on October 24th, we only had 5 people hospitalized in Bucks County. We had just surged and doubled in the last 3 days. We now have 198 hospitalized in Bucks County. So that's among the 5 to 6 hospitals that are there. And it doesn't even account for patients that are from Bucks County, but that maybe have gone to Holy Redeemer or Abington, which is in Montgomery County. Number of people on ventilators was 0 2 months ago. It's now 27. Now we still have enough ventilators, but our hospitals are going on divert quite a bit. And what that divert means is they're notifying EMS that they're busy and wait times might be longer, and they suggest you go elsewhere. A patient can still demand they want to go to that one hospital if they wish, but we would just need to inform you that they're busier than normal and you might have to wait. The number of people that have been using hospitals in the last 9 months certainly has decreased. People were concerned. They did not want to go to the hospital. We were worried that we were going to have a surge of heart attacks and strokes and surgical cases. I've not really seen that happen. So it seems like the sick people are still going, but maybe those with more minor ailments are finding elsewhere to get care, like urgent cares or telehealth. Telehealth is basically kind of what we're doing right now, where you can talk to a doctor and we can do pretty good at diagnosis, just like this. A couple other things to go over, and it's not really any particular order. We still do want to wear masks. Masks, until the vaccine is prevalent, still the best way. Social distancing. Being outside is also very relatively safe. Of course, tonight, probably not, but as it gets colder. We are finding that this is probably more airborne spread than surface. Initially, we were all saying wash our hands and everything. There's still some degree of spread there, but most of the outbreaks have been airborne. The virus is certainly smaller than would be filtered out by the mask, but the virus is attached to water droplets when we cough, sing, and whatnot. One of the saddest cases is early on in March, there was a choir of over 200 people in a church, and one woman was mildly infected. She ended up infecting over 70% of that choir, and 3 members died. Can you imagine how that would feel, if it happened to you? EMS is busy. and slow. This goes back and forth. We have plenty of capability, both locally here and in the county. We haven't had a situation that there's been a significant delay with EMS. We still want to, again, encourage you to go to the hospital if you have chest pain, abdominal pain, or have any of these major conditions that are going on. But you don't want to go to the hospital solely to get a test, okay? That's not the right place to go. If you want to test and you're not short of breath, then you're really asymptomatic, then you can go to the Bucks County Public Health website and they have a list of places that you can get a test. The rapid antigen tests are fairly reliable if you have symptoms. They are fairly unreliable if you do not have symptoms. But we're still learning more and more about that as we go. Personally, I also think any self-administered nasal test is less likely to be accurate because we're not going deep enough. Anyone who's been tested knows you got to go pretty deep down in there into your nose. There are some saliva tests coming out, which will certainly be much more comfortable. And as we learn more about that, we'll be able to roll them out as well. If you have a positive test, then what you need to do, and you're symptomatic, is you need to isolate for 10 days. If you are asymptomatic, the CDC recently dropped it to 7 days with a negative test on day 5, 6, or 7. And the CDC did that for better compliance because they found that people that were being told they had to isolate for 2 weeks simply often were not, and it may have been contributing to the spread. We do believe that after 7 days, if you have a negative test, the viral load in your body is probably fairly minimal and you're less likely to be infectious. 14 days is still better, but the 7 days is acceptable for the CDC. Again, limit contact. If you're within somebody for 15 minutes, less than 6 feet, regardless of whether you're wearing a mask or not, and they ended up being positive, we go back and look for 48 hours before their positive test or their symptoms, and that's when we would start to say you need to quarantine. Isolation is if you're positive or sick. Quarantine is if you're at exposure. As Adam said, we've been working hard with the police. Not all these guidelines are black and white, so we sometimes have to interpret, if they're outside investigating a car crash, is that a high risk? Is it low risk? And the police department and all the township agencies have done a pretty good job of holding it together and keeping us functional. The other thing is there's still statewide quarantines in terms of if you come from another state. My personal opinion is that that's probably less helpful now since it seems to be everywhere. However, these requirements are still in place, and that's why we as a township are honoring them. Thank you very much for your time. And I don't have any numbers particularly here in Northampton Township because people transit so much, but I'll continue to work and advise our leaders and departments as we move forward.
Thank you, Dr. Lavelle. If I could just wrap up, I just want the public to know that all of the Dr. Lavelle has been involved in all of the decisions that the township administration has been making around when we open, when we don't open, what buildings open, how we do it, what the protocols are, what the procedures are, how we protect the public, how we protect our employees. Dr. Lavelle has been involved in most or all of those decisions on a very regular basis. So again, thank you. It's great to have someone on board, and I see this as a real long-term position for us, because even after COVID, I think we've learned how beneficial it is to have medical advice in our daily decision-making process.
Thanks,
Adam, I had one question for our residents, or?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, just a couple of people, some people ask me, they say, well, when should I go to the hospital? And, I'm not sure a lot of people, when they have, they say they test COVID, they test positive for it, or they're homesick, and they're pretty certain they have it because they have, loss of taste and all the other symptoms. Mm-hmm. What's your recommendation when a person should make a decision, say, listen, at this point in time, I really should go to the hospital? And I guess, I know it's hard to recommend the hospital, but, should we encourage people to go to St. Mary's, Holy Redeemer, Doylestown, or is it just a hospital your preference, or what's the recommendations for that?
Sure. That last one, hospital of your preference is certainly fine.
Okay.
There's not like one that is any much better than the others. Our workup is pretty standard. If you're a positive case, if you develop shortness of breath, you should be checked out. And even more, and as importantly, if you develop shortness of breath, we're finding that many people have a low pulse ox. And what that measures is the percentage of oxygen that's in your blood. Normally it's 95 to 100%. And if it drops just a little bit down to 90, maybe if you're an asthmatic, for example, or you have pneumonia, you're going to feel short of breath. You're not going to be able to breathe as easy. And that's definitely an issue to go and get checked out. What we're finding in this crazy virus, guys, we as doctors and scientists are learning about this as we go. There's been nothing like it in the world before. The pulse ox in some of these patients is 50 or 60%, which is at a level that's almost, we say, non-compatible with life. But the person sitting there talking say, yeah, I feel all right. It's very odd. So I've actually recommended that if you're positive, buy from Amazon or your local store or whoever a drugstore, they have fingertip pulse ox. You just put your finger in and it gives you a number. And I know personally 2 friends whose parents would refuse to go to the hospital until I recommended that, and they found out that they were very low, and then they ultimately got very sick, but fortunately survived. So, if you're just having a fever, the sniffles, some body aches, and you're positive, but you're not short of breath, there's not much we can do for you. It's, treat your symptoms as you go along. But if you develop chest pain, shortness of breath, or severe abdominal pain, those are indications to go to the hospital. And if you're self-checking your pulse ox, and they're not that expensive, they're about $30 to $40 or $50. If it becomes that the pulse ox is less than 90%, then you should go to the hospital under that circumstance, so we can at least work you up. You still may be sent home, but we can at least check and make sure we're not missing anything else.
And doctor, just on the fever level, I mean, for an adult, if the fever's over 103, 104, I mean, is there a level there that people should be concerned about, or?
Not really. A fever is actually a good thing. It helps our immune system fight off bacteria and viruses a little better. Now, when we get really high, it's unlikely that somebody's going to have a fever of 104 or 105 and feel great. So they're going to have some of these other symptoms. So the fever is less of an indicator. It just means that your immune system's working. And that's why after the vaccine, even some people will have a fever for the one day. What's going on. I will say this one thing to keep in mind moving forward. The vaccine can cause mild side effects, just like a flu vaccine or any vaccine. But one thing to think about is, once we are able to get it, we don't want to vaccinate the entire police department on the same day, because they're all going to call out sick tomorrow. So there'll have to be some operational planning, and we'll talk more when we move forward and we have those available to us. But most people say kind of plan on taking the day off after you get the vaccine. We're getting a lot of information right now, because today a lot of my fellow colleagues at Temple University and other places have gotten the vaccine, and they're reporting on our medical Twitter page. We follow each other, and they're explaining their symptoms, and so far they've been fairly mild. The only 2, and you have to remember, tens of thousands of people have gotten the vaccine already in Britain. So, every day we're learning a lot more about it.
Dr. Lavelle, how many vaccines have come into Bucks County? Do you know that by now?
Right now, the only places that they're going to be coming into is going to be the hospital systems, because we're concentrating on them. And the other is on long-term care facilities. Okay.
Has any come in so far yet?
I don't have any solid information on that, because all my contacts are down in Philadelphia. But they are starting, it is starting to come in. Obviously, I was just reading an article. There's a lot of supply chain issues with getting the components. There's some discussion about how to fix that. It's just going to take some time to make these things. And the hospitals will see them first, followed probably quickly by nursing homes, and then emergency services after that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again, Doc.
Yep, anytime.
All right. I do not believe we have any public comment. Anyone signed up for public comment for agenda items? So we'll move on. If you would like to make a public comment about any item, we will have another opportunity later in the meeting. And again, please send your email to publiccomment@nhtwp.org, and please put your name and address in the body of the email. And let us know if you want to be recognized to speak, or if you would prefer just if you want to write a 300-word comment, we're happy to read that as well. Moving on to the consent items, approval of the minutes. Frank?
You lost them.
I'll give him a second. Okay, we'll give Frank a second to, we'll come back to Frank. We'll move on to accounts payable for right now. Kim?
Yes, I have the bills list for December 2nd, 2020. Total all funds, $450,047.86. Then I have the bills list for December 16th, 2020. Total all funds, $919,521.29.
Thank you. Hearing any comments? Pass as consent. Thank you very much. And we'll give Frank a couple minutes to come back on. We can circle back. No public hearings or unfinished business. So we're going to move on to new business. And our first item is consideration of preliminary final plan of land development for the Giant on 2nd Street Pike. And Barry, would you do the honor?
Oh, thank you, Adam. Adam, is the applicant on Zoom or?
Yeah, I think we'll just need 1 second.
Yeah, I just added Mark Kaplan. He'll be joining us, and I'm adding the rest of his team.
Okay.
So you want to get started. There's Mark now.
Yeah. And then, Bill, if you can also put up the plan for the site, I appreciate that.
Let me get his team in first.
Sure.
We lost Frank again.
Yeah, I think he's having a little bit of trouble with his camera.
Frank's coming back on now. Mark, is it Jay McGillen part of your? Yes, okay.
He is. He's our architect.
Okay, he's coming on. Carriac coming on.
Frank, we moved on to the Giant plan, and then we'll circle back to do approval of the minutes.
Not a problem. I heard everything, but I was having trouble getting up the view again and also having you guys hear me. But I heard the whole time.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay. So the item discussing is the preliminary final plan of land development for the Richboro Plaza Shopping Center. And gentlemen, if I could have you just introduce yourselves before I summarize the plan. So Mark, maybe you could start off, introduce yourself and.
Sure. So let me try and save some time. So I'm Mark Kaplan. I'm a lawyer that represents the owner of the property. Dan Hughes is he's the owner. He's the controlling shareholder of the entity that owns the property. I think we have Jim McGillen, our architect, Matt Kelly, who's in charge of running the center. I think Brian Myers, our engineer who prepared all the plans, is here. And our representative from Giant, Carriac, who has been with us since the beginning of this process.
Good. Thank you, Mark. And then welcome to our board meeting. It's a very exciting development for our township. This is the property which is at the Richboro Plaza Shopping Center, which is located at the northeast corner of 2nd Street Pike in Newtown, Richboro Road. The proposal before us tonight is to propose to construct a brand new 50,340 square foot Giant at this site. The site's currently serviced by public water and sewer and is zone C3 in the Village Overlay District. This plan has been presented to a number of the township committees and review boards. It went to the Township Zoning Hearing Board, and some of the major items there was to allow 36 new off-street parking spaces in support of the addition to the existing building. It also allowed a variance pertaining to the impervious surface ratio of 79.9%. and also to permit a new freestanding sign along 2nd Street Pike. The plan has also been reviewed by our township professionals, Gilmore Associates, Benoni Associates. It's also gone to the Township Planning Commission, McMahon Associates for Traffic, and also the Bucks County Planning Commission has also commented on it. So 2 things I'd like to bring before we get into greater discussion is that the applicant has acknowledged that they'll be working with the township in conjunction with the Richboro Sidewalk Plan, which is a major project to put sidewalks all throughout downtown Richboro. The second thing is that since the property is located in the Village Overlay District, they'll satisfy the requirements of the design of the proposed giant, incorporate the requirements pertaining to landscaping, sidewalks, and other things pertaining to Village Overlay. But maybe at this time, Mark, I could ask you or one of your team members to just give us an overview of the plan, explain what your intentions are, and then I can read a proposed motion.
Yeah, sure, Barry. You're right. I remember this shopping center from 30, 40 years ago when a friend of mine managed it. But I'm very proud to represent Dan Hughes and his team. Dan's a first-rate professional in the real estate business and has been trying to redevelop this into what we hope will now be for some time. A couple of years ago, Dan and Matt had a plan to get rid of the old green mansard, I guess the facade, and we spent some time, and township approved the facade improvements. Fortunately for everybody, I guess, Giant came along at the right time, and Giant is going to enable us to really redo this center and bring it way up to speed. We've been to the Planning Commission, we've been to the Zoning Hearing Board. As Barry said, we've gone through all the reviews, we've submitted multiple plans. I believe that we have worked everything out with staff. So in front of you is the land development plan. And my friend, Mr. Pellegrino, warned me that I was not allowed to show all of my 26 slides tonight. So we're gonna, what I would like to do is show you this. And who's got control of this? Bill, do you have control of it?
Yes, I do.
Okay, better you than me. If you could get down to 16 or 17, where we show the new overall facade, I think that's really the most important thing for, yeah, you're there. That is the Giant. That's the new facade. Go to the next one if you would. Okay, so here's the only item that was of controversy with the zoning, with the Planning Commission the other night. This is looking in as, I guess the bank is on your left. You're coming in off of Newtown Road, and we've got the Giant. There was some criticism of that blank wall at the rear. So I think, Bill, I sent you a drawing. Yeah, that's so our architects went back to the drawing board and added a decorative wall to the rear, I guess, right-hand corner. So the only other thing that, without getting into all of the details, the township had on its agenda, I believe to be paid for by the township, a sidewalk program, and we were asked to pick up the sidewalk program at our expense. And thanks, Bill. the sidewalks and the landscaping improvements along the 2nd Street Pike basically incorporates the McMahon plans that were prepared for the township. As the proposed resolution says, McMahon has obtained a highway occupancy permit for the sidewalk improvements. Joe DeSantis asked us to make some modifications to the throat coming in. It's opposite the center on the other side. And we've agreed on those improvements. Joe's going to connect them with the township's HOP for the sidewalks. And that will enable us to do those improvements when we go ahead. There are 2 other items that I'd like to touch upon. Barry touched upon the fact that this property is a non-conforming property. It's not non-conforming with regard to use. It's all a permitted use. However, I think the center is at least 50 years old, developed under an ordinance that has long come and gone. And therefore, many, many aspects of the parking lot, the setbacks, the side yards, the landscaping are all non-conforming. When we went to the zoning hearing board, Bob and Mike and I looked carefully at what variances we would need in order to add this 12,000 additional square feet, how many parking spaces we would need, what variances we would need. We took that all through the zoning process, and we got the variances we need. Now, when we get to land development, yes, the property is located in the C3 with the village overlay, but as all of you know, the village overlay has a totally different motif in mind, and that's bring the property out to the street. So there are a number of village overlay specific provisions that there's no way that you can comply with. Technically, from a zoning lawyer's point of view, we do not need waivers or variances from those items because we're allowed to continue them. However, the engineers have gotten together and created a list, our engineers and your engineers, of the items where we don't comply with the village overlay. And we have submitted a waiver request that everybody is in agreement on, and we hope you will be also.
Yeah, Mark, I think we're probably, this board is satisfied with a lot of the waivers that have been presented. So I don't know if we need to go through every detailed waiver that was presented.
We'll be here too long, Barry, and they're boring.
Yeah, that's so. I think from the the Board of Supervisors, has reviewed all the various documents presented by professionals and also the Planning Commission of Bucks County and also our Township Planning Commission. So generally, I think we're in general agreement with that. A couple of questions I just wanted to point out that we had. One pertained to just general parking. I know that there was a waiver given by the zoning hearing board for the 36 new off-street parking spaces. One, concern that, I personally had, some other board members may have a concern, is that the traffic flow to the Giant is going to be, my impression, be much greater than the previous store that was there because of the size and the better, more attraction. The parking that's proposed in the rear of the building, I guess that was there before.
It was.
Can that be more dedicated towards the employees of the shopping center? That way you have more of the patrons parking in front of the building and then the employees parking more in the rear. I would hate to have people taking shopping carts and trying to navigate from the Giant store all the way around to the parking in the rear of the building.
So without going on too long, we had that discussion at the Planning Commission the other night. And Curry Eck is here, who's the real estate representative from Giant. And if Curry were to come and testify, he would tell you a number of things. Number one, that one of the most important things to a supermarket operator is ingress and egress, adequate parking, and maneuverability. And Giant is more than satisfied with this. Curry, maybe, why should I quote you when you do a better job than me? So spend a couple of minutes on why you think the parking is sufficient.
Sure, happy to. First of all, thank you very much. Giant is excited, very excited, and honored to be coming to Richboro Plaza, Northampton Township. We're extremely excited about this opportunity, as I'm sure you can imagine. With regard to parking, we looked at this similarly to other stores, similarly sized, and also stores that also have a sales projection or customer counts then that's associated with the sales projection that's also similarly sized. So when we look very carefully at that, so when we draw on our analog of stores, which is close to 200 altogether, but when we have other stores that are similarly sized and with the layout, the available parking, the layout, the accessibility for this location is more than adequate for us. Operational, there's actually some stores that are less fortunate in numbers of spaces that are actually a little bit bigger than this store. So we think we're in really good shape in that regard, not only in number of spaces, but also the configuration. One of the things that with regard to parking, one of the things that we're finding is those numbers of trips and the amount of time people spend in the stores beginning to change with the growth of the e-commerce platform. So the Giant Direct offering, which is fulfilled in two different ways. One, you order online, it's delivered to your house, and that comes out of a different location, but also services customers in this market. But then also more specifically related to parking in the shopping center, in our stores, the Giant Direct pickup point. So incorporated into this plan are pickup point spaces and a Giant Direct offering where you order online, you pick a time period, you park in a space in front of the store, and at about a 5 to 7 minute time period, you're in the space, you got your groceries, and you're gone. So what we're finding is these are people that would normally have spent 30 minutes, 45 minutes in the store going up and down the aisles. Now they're in and out in 5 to 10 minutes and on their way. So that has really helped alleviate the parking demand for our operation. So, looking at this layout, we're certainly satisfied, especially in comparison to other locations and what we offer, that there's more than adequate parking to service our store operation.
Let me just ask a little questions on that. So who would you intend to park in that rear section behind the building, that left-hand corner?
Well, we do not have a rear access entrance to our store for the associates. Everyone would be entering from the front. So for that area over there, I would say if the employees in the other retail shops would focus more in utilizing that parking and not the front, then we could shift our employees more to the furthest spaces away from the shopping area, either in the other section in front of and along 2nd Street Pike. Probably focus more on that area. There might be some folks who are like managers who are there for longer stretches of time, where parking back there would be certainly more convenient for them. They would certainly avail themselves of that if need be. But I think it's just a sort of a ripple effect, where if you have the employees, staff members of the additional retail focusing on utilizing those, it opens up everything then out front of the retail along 2nd Street Pike for some of our associates as well.
Well, I guess my concern is that, say, for example, you have other tenants sharing the space here. For example, people getting MRIs. And, if somebody's getting MRI, are they, with the employees of the proposed Giant and the patrons of the Giant, I know your parking analysis looks at all the parking spaces, but, it's going to be a long walk for people walking around the side of the center to approach the stores for the pizzeria, for the MRI center, things like that. And I guess, is it possible to encourage some of the employees to park back there? And maybe enter the building in the rear?
Barry, could I say something? I think that you should ask Mr. Kelly or Mr. Hughes if we could ask the other patrons in the shopping center if their staff and so forth could be asked to use in the back there. They're the ones that we want to be able to use in the back there. We don't want Giants patrons to park at St. Mary's MRI place. So maybe Mr. Kelly or Mr. Hughes would be able to answer that more than Kerry, because he's from Giant. He's not the representative of the shopping
The
center.
only reason I was asking him, Elaine, is I was pertaining to his employees, because he'll be the largest employer on the site. And I think, patrons will park in front of the store for the Giant, but I think some people will be parking in front of the MRI and the other shops too. That's why I was saying, if there's a way that this site, you can have most of the employees park behind and take advantage of that parking, you'll free up the parking in the front for the people visiting the retail stores.
I'd be happy to answer that.
Mark, or?
Go ahead. No, I was going to say, let Dan talk about it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer it. It's a very good question. Customers in shopping centers almost never park behind the shopping center. They'll drive around the front parking lot first. And so our intent with those spaces behind the building is for tenants to use it for employee parking. And in our lease form, as the landlord, we have the right to come up with rules, and from time to time to ask and the tenants have to comply with them. So, one of our rules will be this will not apply to Giant, because it's really it's a bit of a walk for them, for their employees. But for the employees that are in the remainder of the center, it's actually very convenient for them to park in those rear spaces and to come in the back door of the space. So the answer is, I agree with you, that should be employee parking, and that's exactly what we're going to ask the tenants to use it for.
Can I hate to dwell on the point, but if the employees of the Giant can access the building in the rear through employee entrance, why wouldn't you have the employees of Giant also park back there too?
Yeah, Giant doesn't have a rear entrance for employees. And
isn't there access for egress? Some type of entrance to the rear?
I'm sure there's a fire exit, but Giant does not allow their employees to use the back door to go in and out of the store. And I'm sure there's security issues, and I'm sure there's theft issues surrounding that. But Giant has already stated in a few meetings that their employees will be coming through the front door.
I have a quick question. Hi, this is Adam. I guess this might be for you, Dan. Bill, can you blow up the left side of the back parking lot, and then where people would walk around to the front of the building? Oh, a little too far. Slide over all the way to the left. Yeah. So I guess my question is for the folks that do park in the back, whether they're employees that may or may not be able to use a back door, is there, is there a dedicated walkway for them there or are they walking in the street? Are they walking in the driveway themselves? So in the event that people do have to park back, because they can't get to the front of the stores without walking all the way around the karate store, the karate shop, is there a dedicated lane for them to walk in that's not part of the drivable area?
That's a good question. I think we should have Brian answer that. I do not think there is.
This is Brian Myers with Land Corps Engineering. We're the civil engineer on the project. There is not a dedicated sidewalk per se along the back of that retail store. One of the things that we are doing over on that left-hand side is we are adjusting that parking area and the width of that driveway to make it a little bit wider, so that now you'll have basically a 25-foot wide driveway through that area. And there is a 5-foot area along the building where people can walk. Now, some of the tenants use that to store, small items or something like that. So I wouldn't say it's a fully unobstructed pathway, but there is a 5-foot area there along the back of the building. You can kind of see it on the plan. There's a white striped line there. That area is available. But one of the focuses, knowing that would potentially happen, was to get a little bit more width through there for vehicles to travel through that area more clearly.
Have you thought about, and I know that area pretty well, and I know what if you were to walk down that, there are things that are stored there. You would have to be weaving in and around them at times. And I'm concerned that people are going to actually have to step out into the lane of traffic. Have you considered some sort of barrier, on the edge of that 5 foot, so that when people walk, there's a natural barrier between them and the street, whether it's a rail, a nice rail, or something to that effect? Because I don't have any problem with putting the parking back there. I understand the situation. I understand this is an older shopping center. We're really trying to make it work. And I think we really want to do that, but I do want to do it in a safe way. And I think that we're going to end up having people have to walk there, whether it's employees or patrons. And I think that there should be some kind of barrier there in order to separate them from the street. Yeah.
And one of the other things that, just to not to address the barrier specifically yet, but as far as weaving in that, one of the things that's stored back there is trash cans. There's a lot of trash cans and trash dumpsters and stuff. Bill, if you scroll down a little bit, you can see the back of that existing retail building. There's a sort of a rectangle, an orange rectangle with a C10 label pointing to it. That's a new dedicated trash enclosure area so all of those sort of random stored trash cans and trash receptacles will now be in a single location. So you won't have that sort of maze of obstacles to walk through. As far as a physical barrier, I mean, a lot of the tenants obviously use that for loading and for, that's how they access the back of their store. Their back doors are there. So, putting a rail along there, something that would impede the physical ability for those people to get in and out of those spaces would be a little bit challenging. We could certainly I could talk to Dan about maybe adding some bollard protection along that 5 foot area, just to give a little bit, of cover for the people that would be using that area for walking. But we wouldn't be able to physically block it completely, because all of those retail tenants, that's their back access and where they're probably bringing a lot of their materials in and out.
And isn't that the area that your trucks are going to come in to go around to the back to the loading dock?
The giant trucks will use that. Yes.
So they're going to.
It sounds like we're looking for trouble here. You're going to force people to go back there, not providing adequate walkway.
You're not forcing people, Barry. You're going to ask the employees, and they all have back doors to their places, to their businesses. Mr. Hughes said he was going to put it in the lease. They're asking them to please ask their employees to park back there. So therefore, they're not going to have to walk all the way around. They're going to walk in the back doors. I don't think that anyone that's going to a store is going to park back there. I really
But see,
don't.
Eileen, the parking, could you scroll down, Bill? It was over almost 100 parking spots back there. I thought I saw a number there. How many parking
There's
spots?
90. There's 90 parking
90.
spots.
And how many parking spots on the whole site?
There's 130 in the front left parking bay. So that front left parking area. And there's 201 on the giant side.
Okay, so about 25% of the parking, almost 25% of the parking is going to be in the rear of the building.
No, 25%, 90 of 300 and something?
Eileen, Barry, we're on the left side of the center. The only thing we're doing is cleaning it up. This is the existing condition. And what And what Brian said is, in the back there, we're cleaning it up. That nothing has changed from the existing use. All of our improvements and expansion, and the expansion's only 12,000 square feet. It's all the way over on the right-hand side.
Well, I mean, 12,000, so you have 50,340. Minus 12,350. Oh, 37. So you're increasing the space of the Giant by over 30%. And we're not increasing the parking in front of the store by more than 30%. I hate to say this, but you're proposing a store is going to be 30% bigger, and you're not proposing any more parking for it, and you're sticking the parking in the back of the building.
Barry, you sound like when someone's going for, with our raising taxes, you're making percentages out of things that don't have to be. You're doing 30% more, so you have to have 30% more. He went to the zoning board. They told him that all he had to add was 36 spaces. That's all. So why do you think that you should be able, that the zoning board didn't say to him, you're adding 30% more, you need to add 30% more? I think you're making a mountain out of a molehill.
I'm not.
I think there are many things that we can go through here than whether the parking in the back is how it's going to be used. We were just told they're going to use it for their employees of the other places. I can't believe that you're sitting there asking.
I'll tell you what, just, so we can move this on. We'll definitely, at some point, we're going to have a motion, and we'll have an opportunity for each of the board members to comment, about what they would like to see or not see. And then we'll move forward. We'll move forward from there. I think we seem to have gotten to the point of this, that there is going to be parking back there. I don't know whether there will or will not be people that have to walk around the lot is to be determined in the future. I think it is our responsibility to look at this holistically at the whole thing. I recognize it's an older facility, but there is an improvement happening, and improvements can be all around. And I think that we have the ability to have that discussion here.
Adam, but what Eileen said is true. We came months and months ago. We had traffic engineers testify. We had counts made. We used relevant percentage calculations. We didn't say just because we're putting 30% more parking, a building, that we need 30% more space. That's not, you heard what Curry said. Curry said that what's going on with regard to parking demand, and I see this with all of my shopping center clients, that people are in and out quicker, and the demand, the need for parking spaces has gone down.
No, I'm okay with that, Mr. Kaplan. This is the opportunity that it is in front of the board, and this is the opportunity that the board can ask questions. And I think
I'm fine with that.
And asking these questions, and whether we all agree or disagree with whatever the answer is the way we move forward. But this is the first time it has come to us, so we're going to allow and entertain some questions and get some answers, and that's I think okay. So if Barry, if you're satisfied at least for that discussion for the moment, we'll try to move on.
Sure, that's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a part of my motion will include provision for that, and we can have comment on it based on the motion. Kim, you have a question, I guess?
Yeah, you know what, I was just thinking about what Adam had said about to the left-hand side, and that there's no, that people walking from the parking in the back coming up to the front. I'm a little concerned because if you've ever been there when the karate studio lets out, there are tons of families coming out of that building. And I just want to make sure that it's going to be safe there.
I think that's a good point, Kim, at least for my question. And I think it was Mr. Myers talked about maybe putting some bollards. Maybe we can talk about that, maybe some bollards and some additional striping just to delineate where people might walk. I would certainly feel better about that. I recognize, again, we're going to have parking back there. Let's just do it in a nice, a safe way. That's all.
Adam, I'm wondering if there's maybe an opportunity to add some sidewalk along the opposite side, say in front of where that new strip of parking is going. That way, like Dr. Rose said, if there are people exiting from the karate place, that they can maybe cross the street, that drive entrance there, and use that path, rather than, you know, walking near storage containers or having to install bollards through a drive aisle.
Yeah, I would be open to anything that you guys thought would be an improvement to that.
So,
I'm
Amanda,
sorry, Amanda.
sidewalk along the
Amanda,
grass area?
I'm not clear what you're talking about. Could you take control of it? Where are you talking about sidewalk? And remember, we're at our impervious limitation.
Yeah, Bill, maybe you can point to where those 6 added spaces are. Yeah, right in there. Along that, behind those parking spaces, maybe we could add a path that way, to at least help direct anyone who is parked in that rear area to use that path rather than walking through the drive entrance.
Well, maybe Adam, I can make the motion and then we can argue about it further.
Thanks for that thought, Amanda. Go ahead, Barry.
Okay, sure. So, well, I could just make a motion here. So I move for approval of the Giant Preliminary Final Land Development Plan, SLD 20-5, subject to compliance with the Gilmore Associates Review Letter dated December 7th, 2020, the Pannoni Associates Review Letter dated December 1st, 2020, and the McMahon Associates Review Letter dated December 7th, 2020. In addition, the requested waivers are granted. The following are also conditions of this approval. And I have actually 9 conditions. The applicant shall enter into a land development agreement and escrow agreement in a form acceptable to the township solicitor and engineer. This shall include a stormwater management, maintenance, and operations agreement. Second item, the applicant shall construct sidewalks at their expense along the full property frontage in conjunction with the Richboro Sidewalk Project under the Township Highway Occupancy Permit. Third item, the township shall review and approve the final design of the proposed giant in conjunction with the village overlay requirements prior to the building permit being issued. This includes a wall facing the Newtown Richboro Road and the inclusion of any architectural features. Fourth, a fee in lieu of the recreation open space shall be submitted in the amount of $1,656.46 per 1,000 square feet of new gross floor area. The new gross floor area is 12,350 square feet. Therefore, the fee will be a total of $20,457.28 as required per the terms of the land development agreement. The fifth item, the applicant is responsible for obtaining any outside approvals that may be necessary, including but not limited to DEP, PennDOT, and the municipal authority. Sixth item, the project should be in full compliance with the zoning hearing board decision number 2020-9. 7, lighting shall be directed down in an effort to prevent spillage on adjoining properties, especially in the rear of the store, and shall utilize timers where appropriate. Item number 8, note in the back of the building, in the back of the giant building, no delivery shall be made past 11 o'clock at night or before 6 a.m. in the morning for giant controlled vehicles. Reasonable efforts shall be made for outside vendors to comply with this requirement. Another item I'd like to add is that the rear parking lot is designated for employees of non-giant Richboro Plaza Shopping Center employees, and a sidewalk will be installed with lighting for access from the rear parking lot to the front.
I second it.
Well, I have some comments.
Okay, hold on. We have, we'll just do this in order. We have a motion and a second. This is opportunity for the board comment first. So Barry, did you have any further comments?
The only other comment I'll make is that, I think I'm very happy about the giant coming. Our residents are very happy about this, but I personally will not vote for this unless we have the parking in the back, have safe access from the back of the building to the front of the building. And I think that safe access has to be lit, and it has to be a sidewalk for people to walk on, whether the sidewalk be attached to the building or in the grass area that Amanda proposed. But it's a significant event. I mean, it's a 30% increase to the size of the giant. You're gonna have a lot more traffic there. And I think we have to be smart about the parking.
Can I just ask one question, Barry? When
Sure.
you talk about a lit sidewalk area, and this is just a thought, would you be okay with if it wasn't a physical concrete sidewalk, but an area that was striped properly and designated for pedestrian area up next to the building there? Would that be acceptable to you?
Yes, yes. I just want safe passage.
Got it,
And
understood.
to be honest, I'm not looking for village overlay lights, fancy lanterns. I'm just making sure it's lit.
Understood.
So if
Understood.
somebody's coming there at 6 o'clock at night in the wintertime, they can have a safe passage from the rear of the store, the rear of the parking lot to the front. And you can have many people like the patients of the MRI center or the children from the karate center.
Thanks. Thanks for that. So Kim, did you have you were the second. Did you have any?
I totally agree with Barry. I do have concerns about kids coming out of the karate studio and parents. And, you know, sometimes parents are distracted as they're walking, and I just don't want to see any kind of a problem. And then the other thing is, I just want to make sure that we will have, I want to make sure that our administration is happy with the wall that's facing Newtown Richborough Road. If they feel that it's Mr. Pellegrino he knows what's going to look nice. I just want to make sure that he approves that.
Okay, yeah,
That's
that
all I
can
have.
part of the condition that the township manager will approve the final architectural appearance of that wall. Does that sound good, Kim?
Yes, and I just want to say I'm very excited about Giant coming. This shopping center needs some life in it, and we'd be very good neighbors for Giant. So
yeah,
we're happy. We just want it to be safe.
Thank you, Kim. Eileen, you're on mute. Eileen,
Muted.
you're on mute.
Okay, first I want to ask a question, and then I have some items that I'd like to discuss. Your Bill, could you go to the back of the karate, where that is? Just you just show me with your little hand where the back of the karate store is. Right there. I have never in 20 years of living and going and shopping seen a child ever walk behind the building. They come out. Would you go down the front of the building that goes into the parking lot? That is where the people come out of. And they also do get along the bottom of the building. Could you go over there? No one goes in the back of the building. That is where the trash is. That's where everything has been. They told us they're going to clean up the trash. That is where I will not ever allow my child to be there. And I would never even walk near there because that is where the trucks come in and out. So therefore, I do not understand why you're all getting hot and bothered about putting in a sidewalk, putting in lights, putting in yes, there are lights back there because that's where people come out of their businesses. But I have never seen anyone go in the back of the karate building because it's the back of the building. That's my opinion. First of all, I wanted to say that we have not talked about the widening of the signalized intersection at 2nd Street Pike to provide a separate turn lane and a through right lane. A lot of people were interested in that because they felt that it was very dangerous to come out of there and making right and left turns. And I was glad to see that Mr. McMahon got together with whomever, and that is part of the plan. Also, you're talking about your sign, and I just want our residents to know that it is not digital, and I appreciate that. And with the sidewalks and the street lighting, when we're doing our fancy street lighting that will match with the shopping center across the street, where on 2nd Street, they have and I don't know what they call them, the street lighting, but it's very nice and it's part of our village overlay. The formal landscaping that you're doing on 2nd Street Pike and Newtown Richborough Road, as well as in the rear of the shopping center to decrease noise and to make it look better on Titus Court. Could you talk about what you're doing back there?
Yeah,
I think that would be either Curry, not Curry.
no, it's really Brian. So we have a couple of drawings that show what's going on back there. Let me start off by saying that we had an arborist go out there, and 30% of those trees that are there now are dead, and a good number of others are not in the greatest shape. So when we really started to do our engineering after the zoning hearing board, we spent a lot of time trying to make sure that we would have something that's acceptable back there, assuming that some of those trees aren't going to make it. So Brian, is you the one, or
Yep.
my candidate to go?
No, that's fine.
That?
Yeah, I can do it. Bill, if you scroll down on this plan, you can actually see the back area that I think Eileen was talking about. Sort of where that's perfect there. So yeah, I think Eileen, your question was relative to there's an existing sort of landscaping area along the back of, the existing commercial building today that separates Titus Court from the back of the shopping center. As Mark had mentioned, some of those trees are dead today. There'll be some general landscape maintenance that needs to happen back there to clean that area up. But recognizing that, there's an importance there to maintain that buffer and maintain the density of that vegetation. We're planning 21 additional evergreens along that back area. They'll be around the 10 to 12 foot height at their initial planting. And then we have some other smaller landscape evergreen shrubbery included in there as well to sort of fill some of the gaps around some of where the more healthy existing trees are, but just to bring some enhancement there from a visual perspective. There's also an existing 6 foot high white vinyl fence back there that runs all along Titus Court. We have no intention to change that. That will remain. We can certainly work with we've already said we would work with the township if there's a desire to relocate that, to put some of the landscaping on the Titus Court side. We could certainly do that, but the plan does not impact that upper area of the buffer where the fence situates today at all. All of the work is on our side of that white fence, and just for the purposes of reference, the white fence actually sits on the shopping center's property for the majority of that back area. So all of the new landscaping, all of that will be on the shopping center's physical property. But again, the goal there is really to enhance the existing buffer, take out stuff that's not really healthy, stuff that's not going to survive long-term, regardless of whether we do anything back there or not, and really maintain the longevity of that buffer going forward.
Okay, now the brown that we see there, is that the retaining wall?
Sure, yeah, it's sort of that dark line there. I guess it's like a reddish brown. That would be, so there'll be a retaining wall behind so you have the giant building, then there's the 27 foot wide drive aisle behind the giant, and then you have a retaining wall, and that retaining wall is what we call a cut wall, basically. So the wall goes up to the top of the hill, and then the grade will continue up from there. So all of the plantings will be up on top of above the wall, so they'll be at a higher elevation than that drive aisle back there. But yeah, that retaining wall is being installed for the purpose of maintaining as much of that existing buffer as possible. Instead of grading it out at a slope, we're going to put the wall in. That way we can keep that area as wide as possible for the health of that buffer.
Okay, now also, if you look to the off of Newtown Richborough Road, you see a area of green, and that is where the loading docks are.
Yep.
And is it possible for where it's striped white, right next to that, if any kind of landscaping can go there, so people riding by Newtown Richborough Road, or people who live across the street or whatever, don't have to see the loading docks when they look out their second floor window? Is that possible?
Yeah, we that came up at the planning commission meeting as well, and we talked. I talked to Dan and the team about it, and we will add some evergreen plantings along that radius there of the curb. There's a very large existing mature tree in that area that will remain as well. We're not planning to take any of that vegetation out that's in that existing area, but to enhance some of the obviously that's a deciduous tree, so it does drop its leaves in the wintertime. So to enhance that area, we will add some evergreen plantings along that curb radius directly adjacent to where that's perfect right there, Bill. Yep. So.
Okay, now on this map, I see, Bill, you're right where I want you to be. There's a crosswalk there. Mm-hmm. I thought you had changed it, that you were going to make the crosswalk go from the east side and go straight to the building.
We are in the process of coordinating that with McMahon, the township traffic engineer. Joe DeSantis and I have actually been going back and forth on options there. But yeah, that what I'll call the mid-block crosswalk will be removed. That will not be on the final version of the plan that gets executed by the township. We didn't have it straightened out yet in order to get an updated exhibit turned around in time for this meeting, but yeah, that mid-block crosswalk will be eliminated.
Okay, so then that will have safety where people will be coming around the sidewalk and they'll walk to the building and then down if they're walking to the job.
That's correct. Yes, they will have a protected path the whole way, except for when they have to cross the drive aisle at some point, but that will be in a dedicated crosswalk area.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's see. Nope, that's all. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yep.
Thanks, Eileen. Frank?
Yeah, just two things quickly. First of all, going back to that sidewalk, going back to the back parking area, comment was made, and I think it's correct, that if a concrete sidewalk goes into an area that's not on impervious surface, you could put them in a position of needing to go back to the zoning hearing board because they're already at a maximum impervious surface ratio that's already been approved by the board. Just a thought. So I think Adam's comment about having some area of the already impervious surface, kind of blocked off might be a better solution. The other thing is that I really think that when we look at item 3 in the, as one of the conditions of approval, we pretty well cover the, the whole idea of the village overlay, and the only exception would be those that really make sense and are necessary because of the property, such as you're certainly not going to move the building to the front and put the parking behind. So I'm pretty comfortable that village overlay comment there covers a lot of area, and that our people can work very closely with the developer in getting that done. That's all.
Thanks, Frank. I really just have one comment. I'm very much in favor of the plan. I like the plan the way it is. I really hadn't contemplated too much the parking in the rear, other than I forget who made the comment. Maybe it was Mr. Hughes or somebody, that it is already back there and you're just cleaning it up and making it nice, which I do agree with. It will be good. I think when you clean it up and you make it nice, it will be more attractive place to park. So folks would probably feel a little bit better, because right now it's not always clear if it's parking, if it's just an area for trash or storage or whatever, because it's not where there's a lot of gravel and maybe not a lot of lines that you can see anymore. I really have no issue with anything other than I would like to see some delineation for just the people to walk on, just so that the cars coming in know that there's clearly a walking pathway. I think somebody did mention that the trucks will be using that area. There is action karate there. There are a lot of kids around there. I don't remember if I ever saw where I ever see them, but I know there is a lot of kids there. So if you guys are willing to just put some delineation, and what I'm talking about, and if Barry, this is okay as part of your motion, just an area that's delineated to the approval of the township engineer for pedestrian walkway. And it doesn't mean it can't be drivable. It doesn't mean that it can't be used as an unloading or loading area. I'm thinking more of just maybe a hash mark and a sign that's, or whatever the case may be, just something to push people away from the street and toward the building as they walk around. I actually hope that we do have an issue with a lot of people parking that back there, because that would mean that the lot is full and the businesses are thriving, which is really what we're trying to accomplish anyway. So I think it's a good problem to have. I don't want to make it into a bad thing. Just want it to be a safe thing. So that's my comment. There's a lot there. I don't know if we have to change the motion. Joe, I hope you're on and paying attention. Is there anything that we need to adjust in that motion to just accommodate that?
Well, let me reread the motion, Adam.
Okay.
I'll read line on I-9, and let me just have one point of clarification with the township manager. So the site is, we're proposing it's going to be 50,000 square feet for the Giant. My understanding in the current ordinance we have now is for every 100 feet of retail, we have, our ordinance currently says 1 parking spot. I think that's correct, or?
No.
Per 150, I think it is, Barry.
Per 150, okay.
I think so.
So if it's 50,000, I thought it was over for every 100.
Let's see. I'll have to find it. I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
Isn't it 5.5 per thousand?
What's that?
I think it's 5.5 per thousand square feet.
It's basically 5.5 stalls per 1,000 square feet of floor area.
But wait a minute, this is a non-conforming shopping center. It doesn't comply with that. We went through all of that in detail before the zoning hearing board.
No, I understand that. If you please, I'm speaking, okay? All I'm saying is that, yes, I agree it's non-conforming. We're all happy to have the Giant here, but I still think we have to have a common sense approach here. And basically the site's going to have, as I count, 421 parking spots on the site, and you're going to have 90 parking spots in the back, which Eileen, you admit you would never park there because it's too dangerous. So that gives us only 331 parking spots for a site of almost 100,000 square feet. So if this is a green field, we'd be talking about a lot more parking. And all I'm saying is I don't think it's unreasonable to ask that, we have a safe passageway from those 90 parking spots in the back.
We don't have a problem with what Adam described. We don't want to have to create more impervious coverage. We're comfortable with trying to delineate a path. Barry, there was one thing in your motion that I wasn't clear on. I wasn't clear whether you were saying that the area in the back had to be designated for employee parking. We will encourage employee parking back there, but we do not want that to be limited to employee parking. And I'm not sure what you said. I didn't hear it very clearly. Okay,
well, I did say designated, but I can change. I'd be willing to change that. So let me try rereading it. And I scratched my notes here, so I apologize if I'm a little rough in reading it. But rear parking lot is for rear parking lot is for it's. Let me say it right. So rear parking lot is to be used to encourage employees of the non-Giant Richville Plaza Shopping Center employees to park there, and a safe passage from the rear lot will be installed with lighting to provide access to the front of the store.
Stores.
Could, instead of saying installed, could you just say designated or delineated? Because when you say installed, it sounds like we're going to construct something, and that's what we're trying to stay away from.
Well, from an engineering standpoint, Amanda, does that work for you, or?
Yeah, I do think designated is fine. And I will say they do have proposed lighting along that path and in the rear parking area proposed now. So, again, we will review the next submission, but I think that from a lighting perspective, we could probably come to a conclusion and a solution here.
Okay. And to be honest, I take Adam's point too, in the fact that we're going to be very pleased when this whole place is going to be overwhelmed with needs for parking because you're going to be so full. And it's going to bring so much activity to the, not only to the Giant, but also the other retail establishments there. So
One thing that I want to tell, and I want everyone to understand, is that through this whole progress, our administration professionals have been working with Richboro Plaza as well as with Giant through this whole thing to come up with this plan. This is not something that Richboro Plaza just threw at us tonight. They have been working with Amanda. They have been working with McMahon Driving, with Joe DeSantis. They have been working with Craig Peone from the plan. They have been working with everyone to come up with a plan that is safe and will be something that we will have here, hopefully after I'm long gone and we're all long gone. And this shopping center will still be something that people from other areas of Bucks County come down to do their shopping at. Better watch, Barry. You're going to maybe only say Northampton Township people can come here.
Okay.
Eileen, I just want to have it so when you feel comfortable, when you come to the shopping center, it's just full, that you'd be willing to park in the rear there and walk around and feel safe.
I think
won't be. Don't worry about it.
I'm going to call the vote. We have a motion and a second. If
Well, could you, excuse me, could we ask a few questions about the motion? Because
sure, if you want,
I'm
very
really
open.
not clear about everything that was said.
We want clarity, so that
Yeah, I mean, respectfully, I'm not trying to be difficult, but
that's okay.
One thing that was said was that the sidewalk would be full frontage. So I assume you're talking about 2nd Street Pike only, because there is no plan to install more parking or more sidewalks on Newtown Road.
That frontage is already covered with existing sidewalks, so we didn't want the intent there to be that we were rebuilding anything on Newtown Richboro Road.
Yeah,
it was installing the sidewalk on the 2nd Street Pike or 2nd Street frontage.
Yeah. So Mark, I guess the intent, if that was you asking a question, item 2 says the applicant shall construct sidewalks at their expense along the full property frontage in conjunction with Richville Sidewalk Project. So my understanding of that would be only on 2nd Street Pike. That's your frontage.
Yeah, that was one of our comments.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. My next question is, and I may not have heard this correctly, so forgive me if I'm misinterpreting it. But the rear side wall of the Giant, we've been working for quite a while with our architect and the township professionals to come up with a design that was acceptable. And so I'm wondering, are you voting to approve that design, or are you asking us to continue designing something else?
Well, Dan, that was one of my comments. I think, Bill, would you bring up the design that we delivered to you?
I think I might be able to just help this. I see that design. I think that and I don't want to speak for the rest of the supervisors, I would be comfortable if the rest are, to delegate that to the township manager and township engineer, that as you work with them to come up with a design that they find is acceptable and appropriate to both parties, and leave it at that.
Can I respectfully just say this? We've been working with Giant to perfect this plan. And this store has become a very, very expensive project for them, because we're taking 36,000 square feet of perfectly good buildings that we could lease to tenants, and we're demolishing it. And so we're eliminating that. So in order to replace that rent, the rent for Giant is very high. Giant has agreed to the landscaping. They've agreed to the street lighting. They've agreed to the sidewalks. And so tonight, if we leave this meeting and the resolution says this is going to be worked out in the future, then Giant is not going to send me a letter saying we waive the contingencies, we're ready to start. And this thing's going to continue on, because Giant's not going to know what their costs are. And I don't want to push this thing down the pike for 2 more months and have Giant wake up one day headquarters and say, you know what, this thing's getting crazy and it's getting too expensive, and they have a bad month and they pull the plug on the deal. I mean, with all due respect, this is the rear side of a supermarket. It's the back of house. And, you know, it's actually a very tasteful architectural feature, which is complementary to the overall design of the building. And I really, you know, if the township manager is willing to weigh in tonight that that's acceptable, I'd like to have that approved. And I'm asked it respectfully.
I'm certainly willing to weigh in, Dan, if it's all right with the board. I just saw this, this proposed rendering. My only concern is I don't know what that middle wall looks like. I'm fine with the corner. I think the back where you created those, I don't know what they are, features, architectural features, tie the front in. What is that middle wall made of? It's just a big blank wall. Is it split face block? Is it that's what I would want to find out before I could.
Our architect is here, and they're very expensive panels, so we wouldn't dare give you a cinder block wall. So I think Jim should talk to what they are.
I think that's why the board, Dan, said, you know, we would work administratively, we would work this out, just because we just got this. And I don't know, personally, I don't know what that wall is made of, what kind of materials, or if it's going to look like it does in this rendering, or if it's going to look like something else when it's actually built.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, isn't it true that the township has worked with you very closely and in a very cooperative fashion? And you've heard tonight from this board that the board supports the Giant. So I think as long as you come back with a reasonable approach with the sidewall there, I'm sure the township administration and the engineer will sign off on it.
Yeah, look, absolutely. This has been a cooperative effort by everyone, and I applaud everyone and I thank you for it. All I'm saying is that until we know, I mean, if you think of this, the Giant real estate manager has to go to his board and say, this is the deal and this is what it's going to cost, before they say, okay, and they sign off to a 20-year lease. So until we resolve these things, they don't know what it costs. I mean, that's just a practical thing. If we can't, you know, if we can't reach an agreement on it, then we can. I'm just saying that it's going to delay everything. It's going to delay Giant's approval of the project.
But Mr. Hughes, Mr. Pellegrino just said to you, the one in the middle, he just wanted to know what the materials were, and Mr. McGillen was going to tell us.
Yeah,
Yes.
Dan, I don't see this as a big item. This is not a big issue.
I don't see this as a big item. As a matter of fact, I think actually deferring it to the township staff and not having to go through the board and come back will make it go much faster for you. I think Mr. Pellegrino has a few questions. Again, I think it's a new concept. It's appealing to me. I think it looks good. I think Bob's questions are right about what is that middle wall. We just kind of sort that out and get a better understanding. And if Bob says, you know, they're satisfied, we'll move forward. I don't think that's going to hold this up, Dan, at all.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, and Adam, I have one crazy technical thing that I've talked to Bob and Mike about. Believe it or not, some time ago, when you widen Newtown Road, you acquired by condemnation an easement into the parking lot of our center. And the reason for that was to allow cars from the bank to come onto the center. And there's no problem with that. However, as we extend the Giant building out, we have to modify that easement. I've given Mike and Bob the drawings. The changes are really minor, and we would just like you to authorize Joe and Bob to work with us on that, and that Bob be able to sign the modified documents so that we can get the whole package done.
And are you suggesting that has to be part of this action tonight or just separately? Because this is the first I'm really understanding that, and now I don't really know. I'm not sure for the rest of the board what we're saying okay to if that's part of this action.
Well, I have been.
Perhaps I could jump in here, Mark. As Mark was saying, when at the time the township was doing intersectional improvements to the intersection of 2nd Street, Pike, Alms House, and Newtown Richborough Road, condemnation was done on that corner of what was then an existing, I think it was a gas station that had become a bagel shop. And in the process, that's how we ended up with what is now Dembowski Park. But in the process, the access from Citizens Bank directly onto Newtown Richborough Road also had to go away. So the township went out and condemned from the shopping center an access easement so that we, the township, could provide access for the bank from Newtown Richborough Road over that driveway there that's owned by the shopping center. As they're reconfiguring all of this, that easement is going to be tweaked. And so it's all part of what the engineers require. It is purely between the township and the owner of the shopping center. And so it would not be inappropriate. Mark and I have already had conversation about this. It would not be inappropriate to make as part of your motion, if you're comfortable, Barry and the rest of the board, to just add in there that the existing easement, to the extent that the existing easement needs to be redelineated and documents recording that redelineation need to be executed and recorded, you're authorizing the engineer to approve them, me to approve them, and for Bob to sign.
Okay, Barry, do you agree to amend your motion to include that?
Thank you. We could probably just amend the first item, Joe.
Yes.
Because that would be part of the land development agreement.
That's fine.
Yeah. Okay. And Kim, do you agree on the second?
Yeah.
There you are. I lost you on the screen. Okay, there you are. Okay, yeah, thanks. I appreciate that clarity. I just didn't want to leave it hanging, and I didn't want us to think we did or didn't vote on something and then go away and just not be really sure. So I think that's fine.
It will save you voting a month or 2 or 3 from now to approve the new easement.
Yeah, well, I would like to see this project get underway, as I'm sure everybody would. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Can I ask? I'm really sorry to interrupt. I'm not trying to be rude. I just had one more question.
Sure.
I thought when you were reading the motion, you made the applicant responsible for the PennDOT applications for the sidewalks, or did I mishear?
No, the resolution is clear, Dan, that it's under the township's HOP.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Not a problem.
That's fine. Again, I'm all about clarity. We should all leave here tonight really fully understanding. So that's okay. Any other questions? Last chance. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, do they know when they're going to start building?
Well, demo is first.
Right.
And
Okay,
as
when
soon
do
as
they start construction? Just put it that way.
well, let's see, demo. I haven't seen the final schedule yet, Eileen, but let me jump to the end and say we are going to work very, very, very hard to try to get open before Christmas of next year.
2021. Wonderful.
That's right.
Okay.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
Thank you.
you all.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks,
we'll just take 1 second so Bill can clear the deck and get the panelists all organized. And
Adam, I apologize here. Oh, no, you know what? Never mind.
Okay. Thanks, Joe.
I in some other places that I happen to represent, public comment isn't always at the front end of the meeting. Sometimes it's during the hearing, and
Understood.
And I was thinking, oops, we didn't take public comment, but
thank you.
Okay.
All right. Bill, give you a second there to clear. The next item on new business is a resolution authorizing issuance of a tax anticipation note for the 2021 calendar year. Kim?
Yes. As we've talked about last month, this has been a very lean year for our budget, and COVID has hit our township like it has many of our residents. So due to a projected reduction in the township's cash position through the first 4 months of 2021, the finance director recommends the board authorize a tax anticipation note, which is a short-term loan used for cash flow payments in anticipation of tax receipts expected in April and May. The township solicited proposals from several financial institutions and received a very favorable proposal from the First National Bank and Trust Company of Newtown to borrow $2.5 million for fiscal 2021 at an interest rate of 0.8% for the period between January 15th, 2021 through May 15th, 2021, with no prepayment penalty. The proposal from First National Bank of Newtown is where they think that we should definitely go with. So with that, I'd like to make a motion.
Please.
I move to adopt resolution R-20-25, authorizing the issuance of a tax anticipation loan from First National Bank and Trust Company of Newtown at an annual interest rate of 0.8% and authorizing the appropriate township officers to execute all necessary documents in connection with the loan.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comment, any further comment, Kim?
It's just that we don't usually receive a lot of our taxes until April and May, and it's just to pay our normal bills. And I don't think it's going to be a problem for us to pay it back right away.
Thanks, Kim. Eileen?
No, I'm fine.
Barry?
Oh, good.
Frank?
Fine.
I have no further comments. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next on our list is consider bond parameter ordinance for fire station construction. Frank?
Are you going to open a meeting for this, for the ordinance?
Is that necessary for this, Joe, to open a
Open
meeting?
a public hearing, yes.
Thank you. Call the public hearing to order.
Okay, I'll proceed. The administration has been working with Dan O'Brien from RBC Capital Markets, our bond underwriter, and Hank Van Plunk from Eastburn and Gray, our bond counsel, on a proposed bond issue to fund the construction of 2 new fire stations to replace the existing buildings in Richboro and Holland. Those buildings were built in the mid-1960s to accommodate a 100% volunteer fire company for a township with between 6,500 and 7,000 residents. Today, our township has close to 40,000 residents, and the fire company is a mix of volunteer and full-time firefighters. As part of the bond process, the board must adopt an ordinance commonly known as a parameters ordinance prior to marketing and issuing the bonds and establishing a sinking fund for bond proceeds. The ordinance authorizes the issuance of bonds. The township is currently working with the architectural firm Alloy 5, Bethlehem, PA, on the fire station designs. Alloy 5 has prior experience with fire station designs and recently completed plans for new fire stations in the cities of Easton and Reading. The designs for the new stations in Richboro and Holland are in the conceptual plan phase, which is where the building program is refined in allocating space for all of the various components necessary for a modern fire station. The designs are anticipating a minimum 40-year life expectancy for these new facilities. The current estimated construction cost for the 2 buildings is approximately $27 million. This includes building design costs, civil engineering costs, permitting, and site improvements. It is the net amount the township will need to receive once the bonds are issued. The actual estimated cost of construction will be determined once the concept plans and total building sizes are finalized. We expect the final construction cost to be less than that current estimate. The parameters ordinance will authorize the issuance of up to $34 million in municipal bonds. The higher amount would include the net amount needed by the township for all costs associated with the project, bond issuance cost, and any capitalized interest the township determines may be necessary related to the timing and repayment schedule of the bonds. I believe, okay, we have Mr. Van Blanc and Mr. O'Brien with us?
Yes, we do.
Okay, Mr. Van Blanc and Mr. O'Brien are with us tonight to address any questions on the bond issue from the members of the board or from residents attending tonight. The proposed ordinance was advertised on Friday, December 11th, 2020, for public hearing on December 16th, 2020. The advertisement conforms to the requirements of the Unit Debt Act. Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion, but I want to remind the board members that the vote on this motion must be a roll call vote.
Thanks, but before you do that, I would just like to make a comment. If there is anybody in the public that would like to make a comment on this, please email in now. That's your opportunity to public comment and at htwp.org and put your name and address for the record. We'll try to get those in as quickly as possible before we take any action so that we can have some public comment. This is the one item within our agenda items that we'll open that back up for. Please, Frank, thank you.
I move to adopt ordinance number 609, authorizing the issuance of municipal bonds for construction of 2 new fire stations and authorizing the appropriate township officers to execute any and all documents related to this transaction.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, so we'll have some board comment first. Frank?
I have nothing further to add than I've already said.
Thanks, Frank. Eileen?
Are we going to have Mr. Van Blanco explain anything about how we acquire these bonds, or are we just?
If you have a specific question, that's why.
No, I don't have a specific, because I have his letter in front. I don't know if the residents did. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we have his letter. So that's all I was asking.
So if that's okay, Mr. Van Blanc, if you would just give maybe a quick summary of the action, that would be fine.
Sure. So if you were to approve this parameters ordinance, one of the things you're authorizing is for the underwriter RBC to go ahead and sell the bonds to the general public, which they would plan to do sometime in January. During that time period while they're selling the bonds, I'll be preparing the paperwork to file with the Department of Community and Economic Development, who approves municipal lending, to get their permission to go ahead and issue the debt up to the maximum parameters amount. However, we fully anticipate that the actual bonds that are sold will be much less than the 34 million that's on the parameters ordinance, but we won't know that till RBC goes ahead and sells the bonds. Once we know that, then there'll be an addendum to the bond purchase agreement, which will also be, which you're also approving tonight with this ordinance, for the exact amount of what the bonds would be. And it's kind of the nutshell of it.
Oh, thank you. Eileen, is that helpful? Good, thanks. Yeah, it's nice for everybody to hear that. Thanks. Kim, any comments?
No, I'm good.
Barry?
Just a quick question. So the budget, I guess, and I certainly agree that the firehouses need to be constructed. The tentative budget for the firehouses is a total of $27 million. Is
Yes,
that what we're saying?
that is what we believe to be a very conservative number, which I think at the end of the day is going to be less. I put that number in there. Our original estimate was 25 million, but that was also a very conservative number. As we got into the concept designs, the building actually got a little bit bigger. And so in an abundance of caution, I'm asking you to authorize a higher number, but I do think once we settle in on the final square footages, that number is going to come down.
And Hank, when you go to market, are you going to market for $27 million? And did you say you can adjust that amount at a later date, or what's the cutoff for adjusting the dollar amount?
I think I'm going to let Dan O'Brien at RBC kind of explain how he goes to market.
Well, let me just before Dan, if I may, Barry, the 27 million is an estimate.
Okay.
You're not going to go to market with bonds until we have a firm estimate on the project costs.
Okay, fine.
And once you have the project cost number, you have to add the bond issuance costs and any capitalized interest that the board decides, to approve. So, and also the amount of the bonds will depend on the pricing, I think. But that's where I'll turn it over to Dan and let him explain that piece.
Sure. Well, the only thing, I guess the most important thing I was looking for is that we're going to wait until we have the final numbers or fairly final numbers
Absolutely.
on the building itself.
Yep.
And then we'll add up all the transaction costs associated with that. And then that's what we'll seek for the bond financing.
That is correct.
Okay, that's the only question I had. I have no other questions.
Did we need Mr. O'Brien to make any comment? Or are we good?
I think I'm good, Dan.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Did I get to everybody? I'm sorry, I lost track. Okay.
Yes.
I don't have any specific questions either. I've been following this along and I understand. So we do have a motion in a second. I'm going to call for a roll call vote here. Mrs. Silver?
Do you have anybody with comments? From
There's
the
no
public?
public comments. Thank you. No, there are none. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for
Yes.
double checking. There are no
Yes.
public comments.
My vote is yes.
Dr. Rose?
My vote is yes also.
Mr. O'Donnell?
My vote is
Adam?
yes.
Excuse me, Adam, public comment did just come in.
Oh. Well, because we're trying to be flexible and it's electronic, I don't have it.
Stand by.
I'll hold the vote for a second. Part of the technology is we do have to deal with delays. Bill, could you put on Mr. Johnston, Joe Johnston's microphone, please?
Joe, are you on? Can you unmute your microphone?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Joe. Thanks. Can you just say your name and address for the record again?
Certainly. Joe Johnston, 41 Grant Drive in Holland. I guess, my question is, and it's a little premature because we don't have a fixed amount of what this is going to end up costing, but it's going to be pretty expensive. I mean, we're talking 3 times what we paid for the police station, at least, possibly more. And at the last meeting, I had asked what our debt is for the township at the current moment. And it was reported by the township manager that it was $37 million with a payoff date of approximately 2043. So if we're going to add another $20 to $25 million in debt, what kind of tax increases is this going to cause? And I don't expect an answer. It's just a statement. And how far is it going to push the debt back? I mean, you know, our grandchildren aren't even going to be around to pay this off. So, you know, it's concerning. And I guess my point is, you know, we're tearing down 2 stations. Well, first of all, let me backtrack a minute. I'm in favor of the full-time firefighters. I have no problem with that, and I understand the concerns of the outdated firehouses, but also know that, you know, renovating buildings is cheaper than tearing them down and rebuilding them. So my question is, you know, are we going to get alternate bids for renovations? We're in uncharted times right now. We don't know what the future holds. People are suffering financially. So if I'm mistaken, we're going to start shopping prices for these bonds January of 2021. Is that correct?
We don't know yet, Joe. When we finalize the cost estimates and we know what amount we need to borrow for the projects and include in all of the associated costs, then we'll go to market.
Okay, and when is the engineering and the estimates expected to be completed?
I don't know the answer to that question yet. We're still working on the concept design. Once we finish that, I'm hoping to have it done by the end of January, but I can't say for sure.
Okay, and I'm going to just leave with one question: is are there going to be additional public hearings on this issue?
There will not.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
No, there will not.
This is it.
This
You're
is
either going to borrow the money or you're not, as of tonight.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, am I allowed to comment about anything that Mr. Johnson?
I would like to comment also.
Okay, Eileen, go ahead first.
Okay, I just wanted to say, and I hope that our residents understand something, that we have had the most amazing fire company over the years, and we haven't paid for it. And now we have found that they live there. And I have to tell you that from tonight until probably Friday, our fire company is going to be there. I know he doesn't want to tell everybody, but that's where Mr. Selisker is now, because he knows that he has to be there for our residents. So they're where they are is not safe. It is not up to code. Doesn't have any place for people to sleep, to people to shower. What happens if a woman comes and applies? There is no place in those fire stations to safely hold our fire company. And we have been very, very lucky that we have not had to do this in the past. We don't pay a lot of money for the excellent service that our fire company does. And if we get these bonds and our debt is such that we have to raise taxes in order to pay for it, I think most of our residents will not be upset about paying for the excellent service that we get from the fire department. I'm sorry, when people start talking about money and services for fire companies, I had to say something. I'm sorry if I got excited.
Thanks, Eileen.
Can I say something too?
Sure, go ahead, Kim.
You know, as a supervisor, our main goal is the health, safety, and wellness of our residents. It is the most important thing we do. That's why we got the new police station. That's why we have Dr. Lavelle. And that's why we're doing the fire stations. People expect in Northampton good fire service. They expect good police service, EMS. And to me, that is our big priority. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, Kim.
Can I say something to Adam, or?
Sure, Barry, please.
Yeah, okay. And I think Eileen and Kim, you said a lot. I agree with everything you said. And to be honest, purely, I'm looking at also as a financial decision. And to be honest, from a financial standpoint, this couldn't be a better time to do this. I mean, interest rates are very low now. We can go to market. We'll get very attractive rates. This asset we're proposing here, it's going to be a building that's going to last 40 plus years, probably 50 or 60 years. We're financing over the long haul. So, probably issue about 20-year debt, I would think, Hank, or something longer, or
25, Barry,
25 years. So in essence, it's just something that we're going to keep for 40, 50 years or longer. And we're letting the residents of Township pay for it over 25 years. And we're also in an ideal interest rate environment to borrow the money. So it's really a perfect timing to do it, to be honest, from my perspective. There's no need to justify the need for it. We definitely need it. And just purely from a financial standpoint, I'm saying, our timing couldn't be better. So I fully support it.
Thanks, Barry.
Adam?
Sure.
And just to piggyback on what Barry is saying, from a mechanical standpoint, the fact that tonight you're being asked to vote on a parameters ordinance as opposed to a specific dollar amount allows the township the flexibility to finish the design. If you adopt this ordinance, you've given the cap. This is as high as the team can go. And in the meantime, it allows for the design to be done, the numbers to be locked down, and gives Hank and Dan the flexibility they need to go to market at the most opportune time for the township. So just as Barry's saying, interest rates are in a good place right now. A month from now, as we take in a new administration and other things with COVID or whatever, you don't know what could happen. And by doing it as a parameters ordinance, it gives the township and it gives the team that you've put in place the flexibility to take these bonds to market at the most opportune time they can.
Thanks, Joe. Frank, did you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I agree with everything that's been said.
Thanks. Bob, you said you had one comment.
Well, some of it was touched on already, but I think it's important to remember that I've been now saying for a couple of years, particularly during my budget presentation, that the volunteer fire service is declining. And as Eileen mentioned, we've had 100 years of volunteer service where residents paid very little for fire service. When we started the program of having one shift on a day shift, 5 days a week in 2008, we cut our response time in half during the day, in half. And by adding new firefighters and paid firefighters, that's going to cost a lot of money. There's no doubt about it. You're looking at an expensive undertaking here, and make no mistake that it's only going to grow as the volunteers decline and the paid staff increases. We were very fortunate. We got a $900,000 grant to start to hire 5 new paid firefighters, and that enabled us to go to a 12-hour shift, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. With volunteers covering 7 days a week, by the way, with volunteers covering the other hours. As we add more staff, that grant is a declining grant, and we're going to be on the hook a year from now for their full salary. I think also we're going to have to take advantage of other grant opportunities as we expand the paid fire service, but this is not going to be free. It's going to be expensive. I can tell you right now, just to build these stations, and yes, it's 3 times the cost of the police station, but we're building 2 buildings. The one in Richboro is going to be larger than the police station. I remember a fire station's different. It's a lot of bay storage. It's a lot of area, but that area is an expensive area. You have to have good ventilation systems and all kinds of safety enhancements in the buildings. The buildings today, as they exist, are not salvageable. They cannot be converted into a modern day fire station. They're not big enough, and to retrofit that existing block building would be foolish. So we're going to have to bite the bullet. If you want the firefighters to show up, we're going to have to bite the bullet and move forward with a paid program. We'll do it slowly, we'll do it deliberately, but it has to be done.
Thanks, Bob.
Mr. Chairman, one of the supervisors mentioned me by name, and I believe I have the right to respond to that. It's personal privilege.
I don't know that anybody.
It's a Robert's Rules of Order. You can check with the township solicitor.
Joe, I'll give you a minute to respond. Okay.
Okay. So I just want to clarify. Okay. And I take great offense that if someone's implying that I don't think that the firefighters are worthy of a new, not a new building, but a renovated building or a new building, whichever is more practical. Okay. I certainly believe that our fire department and all our services are top notch in this township. And for someone to imply that I don't think that that's true and that they don't deserve a new building because it's expensive, that's wrong. That's not what I said. I said, I'm concerned about the amount, and I asked if there was going to be an alternate bid for renovations. Now, I heard what the manager had to say, but unless you get the numbers from engineers, you don't really know. You can raise the roof, you can build out, there's options, okay? There's plenty of buildings in this township that are, older than 1960 that are still standing strong. For example, when the police department moved over, they didn't tear down that building, they built off of it. They could have tore it down and say, hey, just tear it down, start over. No, they built off of it. When Council Rock schools, they don't tear them down, they build off of them. So unless you get a price from the engineers, you really can't compare. So that was my point. I understand it's going to be expensive. It's always concerning when we're talking about that kind of money, and I think they're legitimate questions and concerns. And again, I said that I was in favor of the paid firefighters. I understand the issue, and I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Joe. My comment is really just this, that I think everybody has summarized it well. This is happening all over the country. This is happening all over the state, all over the country. The requirements to be a firefighter are just enormous. It is so much to ask of volunteers. And what's basically happening in the fire service today is that many of the folks that have been firefighters are just aging out, and we're just not getting enough new in behind it. Why is that important? Because fire stations, as they were built as volunteer firehouses, are just that. It's a stop-in place. You come in, you do your thing, you leave. Maybe once in a while we have to stay for a storm. It changes the whole ball game when it becomes a workplace, when it becomes a place for career firefighters that they spend 12, 24, or 48 hours here at a time on their shifts. And there are very, very strict safety requirements, as Mr. Pellegrino talked about. And we need to incorporate those into our stations. That's really a lot of the cost is around the safety. And frankly, that's our obligation to our firefighters and all of our emergency responders, is to provide them the safest tools that we can, to do their job. There are so many things that we can't control, but the building is one of them. We can't control that, and the environment that they're in, we can't control. So certainly I'm in favor, but I'm going to call the roll call again, just for the record, because we did have a lot of comment and we did have public comment, and this will be an opportunity for anybody to change their vote if they wanted to. So Mrs. Silver? I think that's a yes. You're on mute.
Yes, I'm sorry, sir.
Dr. Rose?
I say yes too.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Van Blanc. Mr. O'Brien, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much. It's nice to see everybody again.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is consideration of final adoption of the 2021 budget. Eileen.
At our last meeting on November the 18th, Mr. Pellegrino outlined our proposed 2021 preliminary budget. Despite the negative impact of COVID-19 on township operations, appropriations will continue the level of services expected by our residents. This budget maintains, this budget maintains accustomed levels of police, fire, and rescue services, the maintenance of public roads, and the rights of way, recreation services and programs, park maintenance, refuse and recycling collections, and the operation of the library, senior center, and country club without any increase in our taxes. Balancing the needs while minimizing tax increases is a goal and a challenge. Our employees always seek ways to reduce costs and spend resources efficiently. They are professional, courteous, and responsive public servants whose mission is to serve the public. The proposed 2021 preliminary budget was advertised for public inspection on November 20th, 2020, and a copy was available on the township website. We have heard from residents complimenting our administration on the budget presentation. I think we are inclined to adopt the preliminary budget. May I make the motion, sir?
Please do.
I move for the final adoption of the 2021 preliminary budget.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Anything else, Eileen?
No, sir.
Mr. O'Donnell? Frank?
No, nothing.
Kim?
Now, just want to thank the administration, the two Bobs, Bill, everybody for all their hard work, and for all our employees in Northampton Township. Thank you for everything you do. That's all.
Thanks, Barry.
Is the budget allow for a lantern for Bob to light up his space, or?
Which Bob? They're both in the dark.
All right. I'll move up.
That's right.
Oh, which Bob? Well,
They're both in the dark. You're both in darkness. But
I'm in my dining room and I have one lamp, and the other light we have is a candelabra that has actual candles in it.
That's right.
We have electricity in the ceiling.
That's right.
Everybody should know that Bob Armelin is so fiscally responsible. He only uses 25-watt bulbs at his house.
And I approve. I agree.
That's great. And I don't have any comments. Just echoing. Great job, Bob, Bill. Really, hammering it down. I know you guys work really hard on that, and it was an excellent presentation and budget this year.
And I didn't mean to take any fanfare out of Mr. Pellegrino if he has anything to add to what I have to say.
Good. I'm good. You did a great job.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. So before we get on to liaison reports, I just want to circle back to item A. Frank, if you wouldn't mind, under the consent items, just walking through the approval of the minutes.
If there are no objections, I request that the minutes be approved by unanimous consent.
Any objections?
No.
Okay, approved by unanimous consent. Thank you, Frank. Okay, we'll start with our liaison reports. And oops, I hit the wrong button. We'll start with Dr. Rose, and I'm just going to embarrass Dr. Rose a little bit. It is Dr. Rose's birthday today. So if it's your birthday on the day of the supervisors meeting, you get recognized. It's a new policy. I'm gonna get out of the picture.
Is that 29 candles, Adam?
Oh yeah, it's less.
No, 61.
Oh no.
That's all right.
No numbers.
All right. Well, first of all, the senior center, I just want to say congratulations. They sold 150 beautiful wreaths, and thank everybody in the township for, helping the senior center by joining purchasing wreaths. For Parks and Rec, I'd first like to announce some great holiday happenings planned for the community. Parks and Rec Department never ceases to amaze me. They've been working very hard to make sure this year's holiday season is extra special, especially as we're all dealing with the trials and tribulations of the pandemic. The first one is book and bedtime. And over the years, it has been a favorite of many. So this event will be, let's just say, everybody just go to Parks and Rec, and the new catalog just came out this month. It has all the events. There's stuff about, there's a Santa, a number that you can call Santa every week and get an update of what he's doing. There's at the municipal park, there's stations that you can go and hear carolers by pressing a button. And there's also a Light the Night contest. This contest is open to all Northampton residents and businesses. The more the merrier. If you're proud of your holiday decorating skills and want to show them off, off some more, or you love seeing the neighborhood houses decorated and can't get enough, then this contest is for you. Residents can submit their addresses and be eligible to win the People's Choice Award. Voting will be done by those who ride around looking at the holiday displays and have been pinned on a Google map. The map will be posted at the northamptonrec.com website beginning tomorrow, December 17th, and voting will take place through December 31st, with winners to announce the first week in January 2021. And lastly, Parks and Rec just wants you, they've just done such a phenomenal job, just, going from one, from in-person classes and not and virtual and trying to make everybody happy. And I'm so darn proud of our Parks and Rec. They've done such a wonderful job. Please look at the catalog that you just got. If you don't have one, you just look it up on the computer at northamptonparkandrec.com. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Kim. Frank?
Yeah, very briefly, I'd just recommend before you attempt to use a library or do anything over there, given the way things are going on with COVID, just check in, either call or check in on the webpage so you know what's going on and what you can access. Other than that, I just wish all of our residents a good, safe holiday and a happy new year.
Thank you, Frank. Barry?
Nothing to add.
Eileen?
Yes, I just want to tell our public works guys to please be safe out there in cleaning. We do have the best in the county, but they haven't done it in a while. And I was told it's like riding a bike. You never forget how to do it. So I wish them safe goings tonight and tomorrow in cleaning our roads. And secondly, there are a lot of neighborhoods in Northampton Township that are doing and I don't know what they're called, the lanterns on the sidewalks with the bags and the candles. And I think that is wonderful. And I know a lot of people who don't celebrate Christmas are also doing it, because with all the darkness that has been through 2020, it will be wonderful to see the light and the hope that those lanterns on our different areas. So if you're around, I think it's December 19th that everybody's being asked to put it out. Maybe you can put the kids in the car and take a little trip around to get some light and hope for the coming year. And I wish everyone a happy and a healthy new year.
Thank you, Eileen. Well, that's a great segue for me. I'm going to start out by talking about December 19th. So as far as the fire department goes, for the first time in many, many years, since probably the late 80s or early 90s, with everything that's happened in 2020, and with everybody being homebound and just not having the opportunity to potentially celebrate the way we all are used to, the fire department has agreed this year to bring Santa on a fire truck to all the neighborhoods in our township. That's 27 square miles, almost 200 miles of road. I know it's 180 miles, but we have to backtrack here and there. So I'm going with 200 miles. So this Saturday, December 19th, starting at 8:30 in the morning, listen out your window. And when you hear Santa's siren in your neighborhood, come outside and you'll see him come by on the fire trucks. We're not going to be able to get down every cul-de-sac and every dead-end street because we don't really want to be in a situation where we have to back the trucks up with all the kids running around. So if you live in a street like that and you hear the sirens, make your way down to the end of the street to the main road, and you'll see Santa go by. The only thing we're asking is please don't congregate with members outside your own household because we still are in a COVID pandemic and we do want to practice good social distancing and safety.
Mrs. Claus accompanying him?
It's possible that the Mrs. Claus will be in some case there sometimes, and some elves will be there too. Some of the elves may look like firefighters, but they are elves for that day. This is a very exciting task for the fire company. It's an enormous effort. I can't even tell you. The one question we do get, and I would just like to tell everybody, is people are asking for a schedule, and it's very difficult for us to put an accurate schedule together with the amount of coverage we need to do in one day. So please just bear with us, and we hope it goes well, and we're pretty excited to do it. Second thing about for the fire department is we're in a snowstorm today. And as a reminder, it's been a couple of years since we've had a snow. We do have an Adopt a Hydrant program. And what we're asking residents to do is find the nearest fire hydrant to your house and keep it cleared. Keep it dug out 3 feet in all directions. You can't imagine the valuable time that would save, either if your house had a fire or your neighbor's house had a fire, the time it would save for the firefighters to hook the hoses up to get water to the fire. It can be in a heavy, icy snow like today, it could take 5 to 10 minutes to find a hydrant that's buried and then to dig it out to where it's usable to hook the trucks up. So please dig out the hydrant, and we are going to do our contest this year. We've done that in the past. If you take a picture of your clearing crew with that hydrant and send it to chief@ntvfc.org. If you send the pictures in, we're going to have a drawing and some fine winner will get a gift card. So, but please take a few minutes. It's for everybody's safety. Next, from the police department, Chief LeComp announced the return of bike patrols recently. Although the weather today may not indicate the need for bikes, but they are going to restart the bike patrol program. And there was a donor who contributed over $3,500 to the police department to help them outfit the bikes. With the numerous parks and trails in our township, this is just a great way for our police department to continue to do the good community work that they do and make connections with the community, which is what this is all about. Also, the Northampton Police participated this year in Shop with a Cop program. This is an event that raised over $100,000 and allowed 478 of our area kids in the Lower Bucks area to shop for themselves and their families. These kids probably wouldn't have had that opportunity had this money not been raised. And what's really cool about it is that when they walk around the store shopping, they're accompanied by a police officer, and they make new friends, and they learn about what the police do, and they get to do something which is really great for their friends and family. So congratulations to our police department. There's a lot of police departments around us that participate, and Northampton is one of them. Next, I have a couple of, retirements and a bon voyage. First, I'd like to announce Charles Wilson, who's a longtime resident of Holland section of Northampton Township and has been a dedicated crossing guard in the township for the last 25 years. He served from October 1995 until December of 2020, is retiring this year. Charles was the crossing guard at East Holland and Old Jordan Road for several years and then switched to Mallard and Crescent Drive. First and foremost, the children were always his priority, and the parents knew they could depend on Charles to see that each child was safe going to and from school. No matter what the circumstances, weather, traffic, or bus safety, Charles was diligent in keeping the children safe. Several years ago, a group of parents hosted a birthday party for him at the post to show their appreciation for all the dedication he has shown over the years. So from the Board of Supervisors, the staff, and all the residents of Northampton Township, thank you, Mr. Wilson, for 25 years of dedicated service to our community and to our children. That's phenomenal. And then lastly, I'd like to recognize Dr. Art Freeman and Susan Freeman, who are moving out of Northampton Township after being here for 51 years. Now, those names should be familiar to you. Both have been very active in our community. Dr. Art Friedman was on the Board of Supervisors from 1995 to 2005, and also again in 2009. He was part of the Environmental Advisory Council. He's been on the Planning Commission, and he's been on the Zoning Hearing Board. Clearly somebody who always had Northampton Township in mind. Susan has been on the Library Board since about 2003 through 2013, for 10 years as well. I wanted to reach out to both of you and say thank you for your dedication and service to our community and making Northampton the great place that it is to live. We wish you both well. And that is all I have tonight. So to move on, the manager's report.
I don't have anything specific to say, but I know you recognize this has been a challenging year, and I just want to thank you all, the board members, for all of your support and understanding. And certainly I want to thank our staff, because they're the ones who really transitioned from, our full duty to a remote operation in some cases, and back and forth, as Dr. Rose has mentioned, in Parks and Recreation. We're open, we're closed, we're partly open, we're partly closed. It's been a really challenging year, and they deserve all of the credit for how well we have operated and dealt with the pandemic in the organization. We've made some good moves this year with bringing on Dr. Lavelle. He has been just a tremendous asset for us in guiding us as we work through the pandemic, in dealing with our employees and keeping everyone safe. And I hope he continues to serve the organization. And I just want to wish everyone a very happy holiday season. Thank you all again.
Thanks, Bob. Extraordinary effort by the Northampton Township staff this year. It's just incredible. Absolutely incredible. Thank you. Joe?
Thank you. The record should reflect that the board met in executive session 2 times since your last public meeting, on December 9th, and again this evening immediately before tonight's Board of Supervisors meeting. In both cases, the executive sessions were attended by all 5 members of the Board of Supervisors, the township manager, the assistant township manager, and me. In both cases, the executive sessions dealt with 2 matters of pending litigation. No official action was taken during either executive session that required any official action tonight, and obviously no official action was taken this evening in regard to any litigation, nor am I asking you to take any at this time. Other than that, as Bob just said, this will be our last meeting of the year. It's been a very, very interesting year. I'd like to thank the board again for the opportunity to be of service to you and to the 40,000 plus residents who you all represent. Everyone who's been celebrating Hanukkah, I hope it's been a wonderful celebration up to this point. And for everyone who will be celebrating Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, everyone, and look forward to seeing you all in the new year.
Thank you, Joe. Our engineer's report, and I know there's a report tonight.
Do have a report tonight. I did want to notify everyone, most of the board is aware, but tonight will be my last meeting for a bit. I will be on maternity leave for a few months. Thanks, Adam. So Jacob Brigg is actually on the call today, and he will be taking over for the next few months. So I'm absolutely certain you will be in good hands. And I plan to be back as long as everything works out in early April. So I hope to be at the April meeting. So happy holidays to everybody. Happy New Year. And I'll cover all the early holidays next year too.
On behalf of all of us, certainly best wishes.
Thank
Please
you.
keep us posted,
I will.
Jacob,
I will.
welcome.
Thank you, everyone. I do appreciate it.
Thanks very much. You can tell I had the day off because I had plenty of time to make backdrops. We do have one public comment tonight, and I will ask Bill to turn on the audio for Brandon Yett, Y-E-T-T. Are you there? You'll have to unmute your mic.
Hello?
Are you there, Brandon?
Yeah, do you want me to put my video on? Is that okay?
You're okay the way you are. Can you just give us your name and address for the record?
Yeah, of course. My name's Brandon Yand. I live on South Timber Road in Holland.
What's your number, your numerical address?
41 South Timber Road.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the reason I was calling is I work at the county, the Bucks County Board of Elections. I lived in Northampton Township my whole life. And with the county, I'm involved with that. I wanted to get involved with the township level now and started to join and maybe some initiatives right here in my town in Holland and the Northampton Township area with the seniors or the children and as well as the Parks and Rec. So I just want to introduce myself and I look forward to being in contact with you guys and continuing on further meetings.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you for coming forward tonight. We're always looking for volunteers and people that want to get involved in the community. So that's great to hear. Thank you, Brandon.
All right, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks. I just have a couple of final comments. One, I hope everybody has enjoyed the decorations at the Dembowski Park in the center of town this year. That is a new addition to our township. The decorations were put up to bring a little bit of cheer to a pretty rough year. And I know we've gotten some public comments and people were excited about it. So my guess is that it will become a long-term fixture around the holidays. But it is pretty exciting to see. So thanks to Bob Pellegrino and the folks that he worked with for getting that decorated. It's very nice. And finally, I would just like to say that, wow, what a year. I think that we really had to modify a lot of what we do in order to try to have the most amount of public participation that we could under these crazy times. I did not anticipate in January that the year was going to look like this, as most people did not. But I think we made it through. We made it through as a Board of Supervisors team. We made it through as a team with our township administration and staff. And but there is just a couple of quick call outs that I'd like to make. First, it is no easy feat to bring these meetings, all these meetings, to the public. And I'm going to just call out Bill Wirt. He's very humble. But boy, he has a lot of stress over making these meetings publicly available. So thank you, Bill. He gets a lot of help from Lisa. We see Lisa's name, but we don't see her face. But thank you, Lisa. Again, there's a lot of background information and background tasks that have to be made in order to bring these meetings out to the public and to just have all that participation. And I think we've done it pretty flawlessly. And boy, you talk about working on the fly and learning on the fly. We did. And I just want to say thank you to the other Board of Supervisors, Joe, Amanda, and Bob, for just helping me to be the chair this year and to try to help navigate this system. You know, there was no playbook for this year. And but all in all, I think it turned out pretty good. We got a lot of really good things accomplished in Northampton this year. And I'll give you a little preview. I've said it before, you know, the slogan that I picked for 2020 back in January was "Let's go," like let's go. I will tell you, I didn't expect it to be "Let's go home." And everybody went home. And so you may hear a little bit more about that in the future as I expand upon that. But thanks very much, everybody. Happy holidays to everybody. Happy New Year. And we'll see you all in January. The meeting is officially adjourned.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Christmas.